Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to my YouTube channel. To all my subscribers, I say thank you. Please always share my video with other people so that they can subscribe, they can like, they can share, and they can also learn, and we can all learn together. Interesting, right? My name is Ben Gadeyemo. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, and I'm also a Microsoft MVP. On today's episode of Microsoft Fabric, I'm going to be showing you something very interesting. This is deployment pipeline in Microsoft Fabric. Wow, interesting, right? The first time I used this was before the advent of Microsoft Fabric. It was when it was still Power BI, and we usually, create deployment pipeline because we want to create something that is auditable. We want to create a different environment where we can run different things and test it out before we finally push it to end users. We want to make sure we are able to validate and audit whatever we are building, whatever items that we are creating, instead of the Power BI workspace. Right now that we have Microsoft Fabric, the concepts, still exists, and at a larger, or it entails, it's now broader. Now the thing is that Microsoft Fabric, in a Microsoft Fabric workspace, you can create different items like your semantic model, your data sets, your what's it called, data flows, your reports, your different items you can create inside of your Fabric workspace. Now, these items that you create, sometimes you don't want to just push it out to people to see while you are still developing, while you are still editing, while you are still creating stuff, right? While you are still validating stuff. You don't want the business users to quickly have access to it while you are still doing, while there's ongoing development. Let me put it that way. Now, the good thing is that the deployment pipeline is a set of connected environments. It's usually development, test, and production environments, right? It helps us to be able to manage, test, and share, all our Fabric or Power BI solutions that we are building right now. So what happens at these stages, like each environment? Number one, in the development environments, it is the environment where the developers will create, right? They will create the different items, semantic model. They are going to build data warehouses. They are going to build lake houses. They'll build data sets. They do data flow, then to create different items like that, right? Now, when they create these items, they sometimes edit them to make sure that it meets the requirement that the stakeholders, it meets the data requirement, the business requirements, right? Now, the testing stage is now where we have either a selected set of users, or it might still be like people within your data team that are going to test out, and validate the data and validate the reports, the dashboard, like everything, to make sure that everything makes the requirement and they look okay before pushing into the production environment. Now, the production environment is now where the end users will have access to, where they will be able to view reports, view semantic model, those that want to reuse semantic model, those that want to connect to different items inside of the Fabric or the Power BI workspace, right? So in the production, now for each environment, you are going to be connecting different workspaces. So development environment, we have a development workspace. The tests environment, we have a test workspace. And the production environment, we also have the production workspace. Now, another good thing is that you can even parameterize your data sources connection. So what does that imply? It means that I can have different databases that are similar to what I have in the production database that I'm going to use to first develop. And when it gets to the test environment rather, you are going to be able to automatically configure it in a way that data source connection will switch to the test database, for example, right? And when it gets to production, by the time you push all the items in test after validating to production, at the same time, it will also change data source connection to the production database. Interesting. Wonderful. Now, I'm going to do a demo with you now. I'm going to share my screen. I have a workspace called Medallion Architecture. I'm going to show you exactly how to go about creating deployment pipeline. Let's go. So let me share my screen. Okay. Now, this is the Medallion Architecture workspace. So the assumption is that this is my development environment, right? My development workspace, where I create all the new Fabric items, including, you see my data flow gen 2 is there. I have two data flow gen 2 there. I have lake house. I have monitoring event house. I have two pipelines. I have one core semantic model. I also have a warehouse, right? So I have all of these items inside of mine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to either come here and click on create deployment pipeline, or I go to this three dot here and I click on deployment pipelines, right? So I'm going to click on create deployment pipeline. I will open my pipeline name because I'm dealing with sales data though, so I can call it sales pipeline. So I say sales underscore pipeline. You can have some description, but that's optional, right? So you click on next. You click on next. Now, when you do this, this is where you determine the different environments. So you see that now I have development, I have test, I have production by default. I can come here, I can change the name if I want to change the name. I can come to test and change the name. I can come to production. So it doesn't actually matter. It depends on what you are building. Some people just have two environments. So I can decide to delete one of the environments here now and just limit it to development and production. Some people don't, some people, it all depends. Some people do all their testing, their validation inside of the development environments and they push it out to production straight up. So it all depends, right? But what is common, right, in most places, most organizations, is usually these three stages, like development, test, and production. And you can decide to even change the name. It's not compulsory you follow what everybody is doing and say you want to also call it development, test, and production, but you can call it different names. It all depends on you and whatever you want to call what you are doing. So development, test, and production, right? And I can click on create. I can click on create. Now, the next thing for me is to be able to assign a workspace. So for each of the environment, the development, test, and production, are supposed to assign a workspace, right? So I only need to assign a workspace to just the development environment, right? And for the test environments, I will show you what's going to happen. Like they are going to be auto-created, you are going to see it, right? So I'm going to assign a workspace to this guy, and I'm going to click on the workspace. This is the only workspace I have. Apart from my workspace, I have Medallion Architecture workspace, right? And I can click on enter. Now it's going to assign this workspace to this development environment. Now, there are some fabric items that are not supported for deployment pipeline. They are not supported for deployment pipeline. So, yeah. So I'm going to show you the items that are not supported. So it's telling me that the workspace can be assigned, but some items won't be deployed to the next stage. The following items are not supported, right? So it's telling me that data flow bronze to Silver, the second data flow Silver to Gold, my data flow, staging warehouse, all of these four items are not supported for deployment pipeline. Maybe in the future, Microsoft can decide that they are also going to work around this to determine if they are going to be part of the items that will be supported for deployment. I don't know yet, but for now, that is what is obtainable as of today. Today is the 12th of November rather, 2025, right? I click on continue and it has assigned this what's it called? It has assigned all of this. It has assigned it to um, this development environment. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do now is this. So now that I am currently on the development environment, I click on the development, I see all the items in my workspace, right? And I see the ones that are not supported, no problem, no issues. Then I'll click on tests. I'll click on tests. Then I'll click on test. I'll tell it to, now when you click on tests, now this button is going to appear. So you see that when I'm clicking on this, the button is faded away, right? I'm not seeing it here. It's not clickable because I'm in the development environment. Now, when I click on tests, right, it's going to show me the items that are supported, that it supports to move. So from the developments, I assume that I've created all my stuff. I want some set of users or business users or some people in my data team. I want them to be able to test out what I've built, to validate it and say it is okay, right? So I'm going to come to the test environment and I'm going to say deploy from development. You can only deploy from development, of course. Deploy from development, and it only supports 7 items are supported. And I'm going to click on deploy. Now you are about to deploy from development to the items that are going to be deployed are the following. So it's listing out the items that are supported, right? And now there's an option. You can check box this option. It's saying continue deployment in case one or more items fail. So it means that in case that one or more items fail, it should still continue to deploy the ones that are not part of those that are failing. So I click on deploy. I click on deploy. Automatically, it creates a test workspace, right? It creates what? a test workspace and deploy everything that is deployable from the development environment. It deploys it now to the test environment. Interesting. So let's just wait for a few seconds for it to create the workspace and copy all the content from the development environments now to the test environment. So let's wait for a few seconds. All that is loading. So now if you go to while that is loading, if you go to workspaces now, you see now you are going to see the same name, like the name of the workspace is Medallion Architecture, and the second one is going to be test. So by the time we also deploy from test also to production, you will also see uh, another new workspace called Medallion Architecture Production, right? Square bracket production. So that's the way it works. So you see, guys, it's deploying, it's copying, all of those contents now into the test environment. So let's just wait for it to be done. And when it is done, you will see something like uh, a green background somewhere and something like a white circle with a checkbox mark to show that yes, this has deployed, it's done deploying. That the content available in both the development and the test environment are the same, right? And I'm going to make changes in the development environment. I'm going to show you that. I will make some changes in the development environment, and I'll come back here and you will see how it will tell me that, oh, between these two environments, there are some differences. Like one of the item has changed, and we need to now deploy that to testing, to the test environment. I don't know why I keep calling it testing. Yeah, so you see, this is the name of the workspace, and it's loading to tell me that this is done. So you will see the time and the dates, the 12th of November, 6:32 p.m. CDT. That's my time zone. So yeah, so that's it, guys. That's it, guys. Now that we are done with this testing environment, we're going to move to production environment now. So for the production environment, I want this to be done. Oh, it's good. So test environment now is showing that the two development and test, they are of the same content and stuff. I mean, they have the same thing, right, in terms of content and the changes applied on the different items that are deployable. Now, on the production side of things, I'm going to go there, and I also checkbox everything that is deployable, and I'm going to click here, and I'm deploying from test to production. In fact, I love the way this is done. Like you cannot deploy from development to production, no, unless you only have the two as the two stages that you created initially. So I'm deploying this 7 stuff now. I'm deploying it to production. So automatically, again, it will create a new workspace. We'll now call it Medallion Architecture square brackets production. So let's chill for like a few seconds while this is copying content. And when this is done, I'm going to show you one or two things and show you the difference between this and version control with Git. So to tell you how they relate, like how they are connected and how they make sense together. So that means I'm going to be opening my Azure DevOps to show you that. So just hold on, guys. Oh, this is taking too much time. Okay. Copy, 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 copy. Okay, still remaining 5 items to go. So again, when you come to workspaces here, you will see the third workspace that it has created. Now the production workspace has been created. Yeah. So it's still deploying, almost done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remaining 2 items to go. Remaining 2 items to go. Okay, almost done now. I think it's, yeah, few seconds more to go. You see, you can move things around here. Okay, successful deployment. You see the date and the time. Good. Now, this will be done. Now, let me go back to my development environment. And I'm going to, the easiest item to make changes to is the semantic model, right? So I'm going to, or should I just, let me just wait a little then for this to be done so that you guys can see exactly how this works. Okay, so when I'm on the test environment, it's showing me that this KQL database that's it's different from what I have on the development. I don't know why it's saying that though. I don't know sincerely why it's saying that, but okay. So this is what will happen when I make changes, right? What you will see is that the development that like when there's when they don't have the same applied changes to them, or let's say I make changes to one of the items in development, and just I've not pushed it to testing. So this is where you see it here that there is they're not of the same, they don't have the same content, right? Okay, so this is what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to go to my semantic model. I'm going to open my semantic model. I'm going to make some changes to my semantic model. Let's say, for example, let me just do something very funny. Let me just okay, what can I do? What can I do? Okay, so let me delete this calendar table. Let me see if I can delete this calendar table. I'm going to oh, it's viewing mode. Sorry. I have to click on edit, change it to edit mode. So I right click here and now I can click delete from model and I delete the calendar table from the model, right? So now that I've deleted it, I will go back to my sales pipeline. I will go back there. I'm going to I'm going to refresh. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to refresh. Okay. And it's going to now, it's going to show me now that, probably one item or two items have changed. They're not the same with what I have on the source. If I click on the tests, let's see, okay. So now it's telling me, see now, my semantic model, I'm going to check it. So you don't need to deploy everything again to the tests environment. You just need to deploy the ones that's identified that they are not the same as what I have on the development environment. So I'm going to check these two and deploy only these two, right? I'll deploy only these two to tests environments. I'll deploy only these two to the test environment, and I'm going to allow it to, copy the content. Okay, it's just these two. So I've made it so I can. So you see now, this is where it gets interesting, right? Development environment, developers create stuff. Test environment is where you can bring in few or selected business users to come and see what you have created, what you have built, and they can come there, or someone from your data team, you can come there and validate what you have built to say, okay, this is okay, it meets the requirement, then push it to production. So that means that you only had few people, you only had few people to what's it called? You only had few people to uh this test environment, the test workspace. And for the development, that one was only for developers. For the production, that one is for end users, right? So you see telling me that two items, okay, now the two items have been deployed. Now, you see that immediately I deploy to test, it's showing me that there are two items from test. See what it's showing from production. There are two items from test that they are not the same with what we have in test, like for the production environment. So I'm also going to come here again. I'm going to deploy these two items that have changes in them. And both the development, the test, and the production environment now have the same content. Like there's no changes from the development side. So that's just a simple analogy, guys. Another thing I told you guys is that you can parameterize, you can add rules, you can. For this video, I'm not going to be showing that because I don't have any other data source connection that I would, switch to, that I can configure that when I get to test to my data source connections to just switch to, those data sources, right? I don't have that, so I will have showed you that. So this is where you can create what we call stage settings. So for test, for example, oh, it's not here. Sorry, it is here. Yeah, I click on the wrong one. Deployment rules. Look at the logo. So for each of the items, let's say you want to change the warehouse. I cannot even create rules for this one. So it's not every item you can create rules for. These are okay, my semantic model now. I think I can create a rule for this. So I can add a rule, and this is the database and the server name, right? I can add a rule that when it gets to this place, the data source connection should change to another data source entirely. But I don't have any source. I will have showed you guys how to do that. But maybe in another video, I will show you guys that, right? Okay. So yeah. Successful deployment, everything check, green, white, everything looks good. Now, I'll go back to the development, what's it called? So let me duplicate this screen. I'm going to show you guys something. I'm going to duplicate this screen and I'm going to go to that particular workspace, the development workspace, the original workspace. Here's the workspace. And I'm going to connect this workspace with a Git repository. That is, I'm going to be using Azure DevOps, right? So that every changes I make, I'm able to track changes to this workspace. That's So let me explain that part so that you guys understand. So Git is for source control. Being able is like a time machine, being able to track changes that you have made to different items inside of your workspace. Now, it's different from deployment pipeline. Deployment pipeline is for you to be able to move items between environments. It's for you to be able to deploy items between development, test, and production environments. It's different. Version control with Git is different entirely, a different concept entirely. But they both work hand in hand. And I'm going to show you how it makes sense. Now, Git, version control with Git is about source control. Developers can collaborate. They can have a central repository for their changes and code, right, and stuff. But deployment pipeline, on the other hand, is for what? Is for and also the version control with Git also is also for collaboration within developers. Now, this one is to move items, to ensure consistency, to validate and stuff. So it's different. So I'm going to open a new tab and click on my Azure DevOps. And this is my Azure DevOps UI, the web page. Now I'm going to create a new organization. Don't forget that organization is like what? It's like a container that houses a lot of things, right? So now it's this part I need to explain to us. So my organization by default, because I'm in Canada, is going to bring Canada for me, right? But if I go back, let me go back to my workspace. Now, I want to show you guys something. When I go back to my workspace and I go to my license info, and you will see that my Fabric license, my accounts, is in the data center West US 3, right? Now I need to be careful of something. Now, if I want to create a new organization for easy integration between Azure DevOps and uh, my Fabric, what's it called, my Fabric deployment or my Fabric items and stuff, I need to ensure that they are probably in the same country, so in order not to cause any kind of complication or issue, So if I choose Canada, it's going to give me problems because by the time I'm trying to connect do that Git configuration from my Fabric UI, it might cost me some errors and some other things. So I'll prefer to just put it in the United States because my Fabric account. So the two of them will be in the same data center, right? So now I'm going to type this number on the screen. It's just a way of validating that you're a human being anyway. And I'll click on continue. So it's creating my Azure DevOps organization. And I'm going to, initialize a Git repository, So now the next thing is for me to create a project. So I'll call it sales repo. I'll call it sales repo. And I'll click on create. This is going to create this. Now I'm on my project now. The next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to repos. I'll click on repos, and here I'm going to initialize a main branch with readme or git ignore. And I'm going to click on the readme and I'll click on initialize. So it's going to automatically create the default branch for me, which is the main branch. So you can see here the main branch. You can see you can even create a new brand. Well, I'm not really talking about if you want to learn about Azure DevOps and Power BI and Fabric, I have a video on that. So go to my YouTube channel and go to the live section. You will see a video on that and you can watch and learn and enjoy. So now that I've created this, I'm going to go back to my Power BI and I'm going to go to Git integration and I'm going to click on Azure DevOps. And this is my account and I'm going to click on connect. And it's going to ask me which organization. This is the name of my organization. What is the name of the project? Is sales repo. The Git repository is sales repo. And my branch is the main branch. And I'm going to connect and sync. Wow, it worked for me instantly because the Azure DevOps organization and my Fabric license are both in the same country, the same data center. So that's why I'm not having that issue. So I remember that when I was trying to do this some few weeks ago, I realized that I didn't having them in different places, causes error or issues sometimes. So the good thing about this one is that so now that I've connected them, so let me go back again to my semantic model. Let me make some changes. So let me make changes, open semantic model, and I'm going to change it from viewing to editing. I can now recreate that calendar stuff that I did the other time. So I can say new table, and then I'm going to call it, let me make it bigger so you guys can see clearly. And I'm going to call it calendar, or let me just call it dates. So let me call it dates table. Let me call it dates table. And I'm going to just create a variable to say variable, this one will be the minimum dates. And oh, that is an issue. Don't let me create it this way. Let me just add code to the value. Yeah, if I should create a minimum based on a particular column, referencing a particular column, I think that is not allowed. Like it doesn't allow that. So let me just add code to the value. So 2024 is 01 is 01. Then I come to another variable, and that will be my max underscore dates. And this one too is to be equals to, equals to dates. And this one can be 2025. Today is 11 and 12, right? Just an example. Anytime you use a variable like this, you return and you click on, you type calendar and you pick your minimum underscore dates, comma, your maximum underscore dates, and I close brackets. Now I can press enter. Good. So I have my dates table now, and I'm going to now connect my dates table to here's my order date. Here's my order date. Yeah, I have it now, and I can connect the two together. One-to-many relationship. I click on save. So I've made some changes. I created a new table. I could need some connection. And now I can go back to here and I can refresh this page. I'm going to refresh this page. And what you will see is that it is to actually show me that I made changes to that semantic model. It will show me that I made changes, right? So it's loading. Test and production is loading. Test and production is loading. Now, don't forget that it is only, so let me go back to my workspace here. It is only this workspace that I connected to Git, right? So a Git repository. So because I made some changes now, I need to commit that change to the Git repository, and that will commit it to the main branch. So that is being done. Okay, everything is synced, unless the ones that are not supported, which is data flow gen. So every other thing is supported, so it's synced. So now I'm going back. Oh, this one is still loading. Oh my, it's taking so much time. Okay, now it's telling me that let me click on test. On test, it's telling me that I made changes to one. It's different from what I have on the source with the development. And I can, I can even come here and deploy. Let me even deploy the 7 again. Now, what happens? And we're also going to see when I deploy to test, I deploy everything. Does the Git status also move with into the test workspace? We are going to see whether it is true or not. We are going to see, because I'm going to open the test workspace so that you guys can see. So let me duplicate this page again. And now I'm going to go to the tests. I'm going to go to the tests. Let me just click on workspaces, and I'm going to the tests workspace. Okay, so let's see what happens in the text workspace now. Okay, so this is my production, my development workspace, and this is my test workspace now. Okay, let's see. So the stuff is still deploying. It's still deploying. It's still deploying. It's still deploying. Now, what motivated me to create this video was because when I was writing the business knowledge exam that I recently passed, I saw this question. The last question that came to me during the exam, I think question number 52 or something, was this question. And it was about the relationship between Git repository with Azure DevOps with what's it called? With the parent pipeline, if they are related. right? So successful deployment, but you still telling me that one item is, so I'm going to deploy only that one item from development. I deploy again, right? I deploy again. And successful. Now let's go and see what happens in the test. Let's refresh this test workspace. So in the test workspace now, you will see that the Git status is not moving when you copy items. It's not moving with the items in the development workspace. So when you see that in your exam, you know what to choose in your exam, like your answer, because uh, it's only in the development stage that we track changes. I make changes to this semantic model. I edited this pipeline. I edited this and that. I did something to the warehouse. All those stuff, changes that you make to the items, is in the development stage that we track it. So that means that there's no need for us to connect the test environment, test workspace to Git, and there's no need for us to also connect the production one to Git, because the ones that we've validated and we've tested is what we move to production. So guys, that is the end of today's video on deployment pipeline and how it relates to version control with Git. So in conclusion, version control with Git is more of source control, where developers can contribute. They can have a central repository where they store different stuffs. Now, the deployment pipeline is moving items across different environments to ensure you manage it well, you test it, and before you deploy it to stakeholders or end users for them to use. So that is basically deployment pipeline versus version control with Git. So guys, thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to subscribe. You cannot be enjoying this kind of content and not subscribe. Abba, subscribe and let's grow this channel to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you, guys. Enjoy your day. God bless you.